at the head of a revolution that is taking place in Cameroon as we speak. We have seen crowds taken to the streets in Europe, in Africa, and across the globe for him. What is special about this young president? He is the second youngest president in Cameroon. Recently, he was in Africa. I'm sorry, he's the second youngest president in the world, not in Africa. He recently was in Russia, where he was received by the Russian president. He also granted so many interviews to some media outlets that went to cover that event. He made so many revelations and actually gave the position of his nation vis-a-vis the global economy and the global politics. He made his position very clear, very admirative of what is happening in Russia, and says that Russia is a friend and a very, very good partner. He says he's also very ready for a multipolar world and was not ready to continue looking towards one unilateral direction. So many persons are questioning where his courage is coming from and whether he is on the right path. We're going to be looking at President Ibrahim Traoré today as a face of a new revolution in Africa, or a puppet of a stage that is being set on the global stage. We're going to be discussing this with my panelists who are with me in the studio. If time permits, we also are going to follow a 5-minute excerpt of an interview he granted to a Russian television network. We're going to be discussing, like I said earlier on, with panelists who are with me in the studio. Dr. Apostle Andy Valentine is here with us. He is a permanent consultant.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians, and good evening, viewers of Prime Hour. It's a very, very beautiful day today. Glad to be here to discuss this very important topic that has to do with this new revolution that is blowing across the length and the breadth of our continent, Africa. Stay glued to your screens as we bring you very vital information this evening.
Okay, we also are going to be discussing with Dr. Dimancho Michael. He's a lecturer with some universities in Cameroon and also a member of Cameroon Civil Society. Good evening, Dr. Latari.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leo. It's a pleasure to be here to share my thoughts on, especially on the growth of this breadbasket of the world called Africa, where, of course, all seem to have started here, but we are still grappling with the issues that others have gone past with. You know, in Africa is supposed to be the Homo sapiens, and of course other people have come and bypassed us, and it's a pleasure to talk about how we can be able to assist in the growth. And as I've often said, every leader needs his people, because without the people, the leader will also floating. Permit me greet Dr. Richard Munang in Kenya, who of course is watching us at this moment, and all the fervent listeners and televiewers of my major Prime Hour. Good evening. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Nji Lucas, coming all the way from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital, is also part of tonight's edition of the program. Good evening, Mr. Nji.
Good evening, Mr. Cole. It's a pleasure.
As well as Mr. Ta Mai Chavis, who is a journalist working with us here, is part of tonight's panel. Good evening, Plateau.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. Good evening to everyone, and of course, good evening to those who are watching.
We'll start with you, Dr. Apostle Ambi Valentine Angwa. We are asking the question whether Captain Ibrahim Traoré stands today as a face of a new wave, a new revolution that is sweeping across the African continent, causing rippling effects across the globe when we see mobilizations taking place in Europe, in America, and across the globe.
Yes, Mr. Liu, a very important question. If you are a student of African history, following the trend of events from the time that Africa gained independence within the 60s, some 61, 62, 63, 58 from Guinea, Conakry, 2nd October 1958, they got elections, independence from France. You will discover that Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power in Burkina Faso and his effect upon the nation is a reincarnation of what Thomas Sankara attempted to do from 1983 to 1987, and it was cut short. Now, looking at things critically, there is a very, very wide gap between the era of Thomas Sankara and that of Ibrahim Traoré. The trend of African coup d'etats and the dethronement of African liberators in the past has always been the oppressor using the oppressed to conquer or defeat or annihilate the liberator. But unfortunately, this time around, it is the oppressed defending the liberator to fight against the oppressor. That definitely means that the trend has changed. This is a time where people are no longer deceived, people are no longer fooled or manipulated. Because before this period, there has been a hygiene in the minds of Africans. A lot of Pan-Africanists have risen in this nation. They have spoken about the ills of the Europeans and the West over the continent Africa. There's a level of sensitization. I remember before this particular revolution began in the West of Africa, the most respected and celebrated Imam of Bamako, called Mahmoud Diko, organized a nationwide crusade and was preaching about the military taking the responsibility in Africa and to fight for the destiny of the next generation. After that incident, Mali took over, and then Burkina Faso, and then Niger, and many other countries are still breaking ground. So I believe that Ibrahim Traoré, from his operations within the 2 years that he has occupied office in Burkina Faso, even though we have to observe keenly and not be quick to make conclusions by now, I can guarantee that Ibrahim Traoré is not the rest of the other puppets that were used in the past to betray their people. To establish this fact, I will let you understand that if you look at it critically, the people of the past never came out in their numbers to protect the liberator. But this time around, for the very first time, people are rising from all parts of the continent. Ibrahim Traoré's rise in Mali is not just, I beg your pardon, in Burkina Faso, it's not just a Burkina Faso affair. It has become an African affair. It has become an affair in the Caribbean, because people from Jamaica, people from Gambia, people from Namibia, people from other parts of the world, and you had Duma Doko, the recent president of Botswana, taking side with Ibrahim Traoré. You see in Daitwa, the new president of Namibia, the lady is moving towards the Traoré dimension. So we'll call it the Traoré syndrome that is affecting the entire continent Africa. As the program continues, we're going to bring further details of how coup d'etats occurred in the past in different parts of Africa and how they're occurring right now.
Okay, Dr. Dimancho, how do you see him? He took office over 2 years ago in Burkina Faso. Many persons actually did not believe that he was going to stay for long, given the frequency with which coup d'etats were taking place in that part of Africa. He is still there and talking very tough. Your net impression about him?
Yes, it is a translation of what started far back in the past. Sometimes we are tempted to look at the immediate, causes and immediate manifestation of some of these things that happen. It is just because some of our leaders refuse to be the Traorés of Africa. If not, the stage was set for leaders in Africa to be like him. We wouldn't have been where we are today. I must say that we are even late in that. Because if you look at the history of decolonization, if you look at the history of black consciousness, starting with W.E.D. Du Bois in the United States of America, stretching to the negritude thinkers or ideologies, Seda Senghor, Aimé Césaire, there, and going down to even the Afrocentrism and black consciousness, of course, in South Africa, that even gave Mandela even the push forward that he had. Then you understand that this is a long-standing fight that normally Africans are supposed to consummate. It should be incarnated. I usually say that leadership is like Christianity. There is no end to leadership. You will not be a leader, because a leadership is supposed to be handed over. Traoré is not the first president of Burkina Faso. Yes, I know Apostle Ambe has made mention of Thomas Sankara, but it was a punctuation after Thomas Sankara, and you realize that if there was a continuity, Burkina Faso wouldn't have still been where they are today. It's because Blaise Compaoré came and brought in that punctuation. But then I'm looking at also some African leaders who, after a shoe forth, that, I mean, at this point, we're not even talking about them because we consider them to be the nationalists and the independentists president. I'm thinking of Kwame Nkrumah. Imagine that somebody took over from Kwame Nkrumah and continued up to today in Ghana. Ghana wouldn't have still been talking about Ghana the way it is today. Remember that Kwame Nkrumah his rule was very, very fundamental in the formation of hitherto African Organization of African Unity in 1963, which is today the African Union. He played a preponderant role in the formation of the OAU. And leaving Kwame Nkrumah, go to people like Jomo Kenyatta, who was a nationalist and who fought. And if there was continuity, Kenya wouldn't have still be where they are today. We are also thinking of people like Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. And of course, and after Julius Nyerere, I also say there was a lot of punctuation before John Magufuli even took over in Tanzania. If there was continuity, we'll have known that Tanzania will have been a country, a destination. Look at Samuel Michel of Mozambique, who did a lot of these are icons. And thinking more even going to Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. We still have Ethiopian Airlines. I was writing something on Ethiopian Airlines, and many people do not know that it's a fruit of Haile Selassie. He is the one, the conceptor, the initiator of that airline that is flying Africa and the world today. Imagine that there were two Haile Selassies like that in Ethiopia. We wouldn't have been talking about Ethiopia like that because he had a vision. With the African Union head office being in Addis Ababa, he thought to himself, if I could provide a carrier that would bring all the African Union, African president, when we are having a sitting in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, it will be a good thing. And look at where Ethiopian Airline is sitting today. I started by saying that leadership is like religion. It's like Christianity. You cannot finish it. With Christianity, no pope will think that he will finish the mission of Christ in Christianity. Christianity is an ongoing process. You can never come and say, I will do everything this year and then, no, it will continue until Christ comes. That is how leadership is like. You come, do your own, leave the stage, and then another person takes over.
Now, you've talked a lot about punctuations. Are we seeing a rebirth of the spirits that these guys that you mentioned carried?
Exactly. This is what I was coming to. And I was saying that it may not depend on him alone because we have to look at why there were punctuations in the past. And it now is incumbent on us to say that what happened to Muammar Gaddafi, what happened to other leaders, what happened to Thomas Sankara, we have seen the errors of the past. But are we only going to theorize it? Are we only going to talk about verbally? Are we going to stand the heat and be able to support this young guy? And of course, I've already seen how the support is coming across Africa. But it is a support only by word of mouth, or there will be another Blaise Compaoré somewhere that is going to waylay him. This is what we are talking about. And we think that it's a wind of change. There is a wind of change, just like democracy blew from Eastern Europe in the 1990s across Africa. I think there's that wind of change, like we had the Arab Spring. And again, the Arab Spring, we didn't see continue. So this should be something that is happening out in West Africa, that are starting in West Africa. Now the Central African, we are in Central, we should be asking ourselves, where is the Blaise Compaoré of Central Africa? East Africa, they should be asking, where is the Blaise Compaoré? Southern Africa, they should be asking, where is the Blaise Compaoré of Southern Africa? They should not only be clapping and playing to the gallery for Blaise Compaoré in East Africa. They should ask themselves a question.
Ibrahim Traoré.
Sorry. They should ask themselves a question if they have a replica, an epitome, a microcosm of that Ibrahim Traoré in their own region. Okay. This is the way he starts.
Now, where do you see this guy going? Where is he drawing his inspiration from, especially with his age?
Well, I think he had to study, like Apostle said, that if you are a history student, then you will understand exactly what happened. It's obvious that when he went back to study the nationalists in the 1950s and 60s, then he observed that they were no older than him. So he got his inspiration that if these young people could have this, then it's obvious that I too can do it. And the difference with Ibrahim Traoré is he is not a military leader who wants to glorify himself. He is a military leader who wants to transform the continent. if we come down to Mali itself, Mali have had several military leaders. If you go to Nigeria, Nigeria have had several military leaders. But the exception of Ibrahim Traoré could be seen through his works and the disconnection that he is speaking of today. I think he was able to study what Kwame Nkrumah said at the independence of Ghana, that the Ghanaian independence certainly is useless unless the African continent is liberated. So it was obvious that he had sat, observed these guys, and said to himself, what does Kwame Nkrumah mean? Because to him, these people still live. And this is why he had to visit a couple of people. Then he came, he looked at Kwame Nkrumah, who was not as Muammar Gaddafi. He studied Muammar Gaddafi. And that is why, in his interview, he said, the way they killed Gaddafi, it therefore means that Gaddafi's philosophy in terms of making a country great, the young man studied it then and then said, a military man truly can bring transformation. It's unfortunate that the Western democracy has come with so much in it that we have not yet contextualized it, given that the sociological setup of Africa cannot be compared to the Europeans, which of course it is a reason why if you go to Europe, if you go to Western Europe, the democracy you will find in Western Europe will not be the same you'll find in Eastern Europe. If you move to Canada, it will not be the same you'll find in the United States, and the vice versa. So Traoré has studied this over time, and he has realized that when you talk about democracy in the perspective of the West, it will be very difficult for you to develop Africa. And that is why he has proven that he is a democratically preferred leader. In what way? You observed that on the 30th of March, the people, when they got the information of several coups that failed against him, they came out massively. And what did they do? They were able to mobilize. We saw young people from Ghana. We saw young people from other countries, including the United States of America, where the statement that ever came, which sounded to the people like a threat to the person of Ibrahim Traoré, yet the people came out. So, talking about where he got his inspiration, it is obvious that Ibrahim Traoré is within the age that people like the Thomas Sankara, the Kwame Nkrumah, the Ernest Wanji, who actually was caught short with that which he was looking for, always building the African continent. They were not nationalists for themselves. They were nationalists for the African continent. And that is why, understanding this, Ibrahim Traoré is linking everybody in Africa. He is not talking about Burkina Faso. He talks about Mali. He talks about Libya. He talks about Niger. He talks about every other country. And there is one remarkable thing in his own time, is that when they came up, they observed that the oppressor, the person who has the link, is still within the colonial deal. And what did he do? The first thing he did was, let me go to where my cash is going to bring my transformation, because it's all about the cash. And so he was able to identify the source of the transformation of every country, which is by cash. And that is why he had to first of all target that and looked at who is holding us. The fact is, if you are a military leader and you still have ties with your colonial master, it will be very difficult for you to go through. And what did he do? The first thing he did was he had to remove the spies in his country. Every presence, the presence of foreign troops in your country in the name of keeping peace in that region, they are spies.
Are you saying that the Russian guys who are there are also spies?
They are spies. But now you measure their level of being spy. It's very important. They are spies. You measure the level. There are people who come into your country, into your life. You look at, if I could go into a deal on 100 and I'm able to leave a deal with these people with 80 and the other person I had 30, you find that preferable. No matter what you say, no Western country, including Russia, would give you for free per se.
Okay.
He is looking for something that may be different from that which you had with the other person.
When he says that he is into a strategic partnership with Russia and that both of them are looking in the same direction,
when every anniversary is an opportunity to reward loyalty. Orange is here to celebrate its 25th anniversary with all Cameroonians. Many prizes to win for the occasion, tourism trips, latest smartphones, and lots of other surprises. Quick, subscribe to Orange Bonus on #111*1# or via the Maxit app. Gather a max of points and try to win great prizes. Orange is here.
Le fait d'un outil que les Africains, dont les Africains n'avaient pas la maîtrise. On l'a si bien dit ici, on a cité beaucoup de leaders d'antan et tout, mais seulement le peuple africain n'avait pas cet outil qui leur permettait d'avoir ou d'appréhender les réalités du continent, qui était la communication. Reconnaissons-le. Parce que aujourd'hui, ce qui fait la force d'Ibrahim Traoré, de Assimi Goïta et de Tiani du Niger, c'est la communication, c'est les outils de communication dont nous disposons aujourd'hui, qui amènent la jeunesse africaine à être consciente et à comprendre les enjeux, à comprendre que le bien-être est loin d'eux par rapport à une situation, par rapport à l'exploitation, par rapport à l'esclavagisme. Et quand je l'ai donc dit, je fais allusion au fait, je vais répondre à ta question en disant, par exemple, que en ce qui concerne la présence russe en Afrique, je pense qu'il faut le voir dans un autre contexte. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, n'oublions pas que la guerre que la Russie est en train de vivre en Ukraine aujourd'hui est l'émanation de ce qui se passe en Afrique. Parce que pour moi, dans ma vision et dans ma lecture, dans mon analyse, c'est que Dieu, moi je l'ai toujours dit, depuis pratiquement 5 ans aujourd'hui ou 3 ans, je disais, la 3e guerre mondiale est en route. Mais reste à savoir si elle partira de l'Afrique. Mais comme l'Afrique reste un continent béni pour moi, voilà comment l'Afrique a pu déporter cette 3e guerre mondiale en Europe. Et elle est là, elle est en route. Ce que l'OTAN, les Occidentaux ont voulu faire en Ukraine, c'est ça qui a un peu éloigné l'Occident de l'Afrique. Parce que n'oublions pas qu'on avait tout le temps les coups d'État en préparation au Mali, au Burkina Faso, un peu partout. Maintenant, l'Occident est concentré sur l'Ukraine et la Russie, et c'est ce qui libère un peu le continent africain. Et la présence russe en Afrique, je ne pourrais pas dire que c'était dans l'intérêt, mais en quelque sorte, n'oublions pas que même dans la lutte de la libération du continent africain, il y avait le communisme qui avait une ascendance en Afrique qui était pratiquement le pilier fort qui permettait aux Africains d'obtenir la liberté. Les Russes et tous ces gens-là étaient déjà pratiquement en Afrique et ils étaient combattus par les Occidentaux. Et maintenant, le retour des années, des décennies, pour ne pas dire pratiquement 50 ans, voire 60 ans d'esclavage, parce que nous y sommes toujours, et beaucoup d'Africains y étaient, il fallait bien que les Africains, dans la volonté aujourd'hui de pouvoir se libérer, se donnent les moyens. Et moi j'ai dit, et je ne cesserai de le dire, quand le premier coup d'État a eu lieu au Burkina Faso, j'ai dit, non, ce monsieur n'est pas bon, c'était le pion de la France. Et moi je l'ai dit sur les plateaux de télévision, je l'ai dit. Celui que Ibrahim Traoré a remplacé. J'ai dit il n'était pas bon pour le Burkina Faso, c'était un pion de la France. Et beaucoup de gens ne me croyaient pas. Et juste après, on a pu vivre. Alors,
ok, allez-y.
Après, on constate aujourd'hui que justement, moi je n'en veux pas aux Africains. Et je dis à chaque chose son temps. Pourquoi? Parce que j'estime que ce qui arrive au Burkina Faso, nous ne voyons pas seulement plus loin. Mais tout ceci émane du Cameroun. Hein. Ne nous cachons pas, parce que le réveil de l'Afrique aujourd'hui, le réveil de l'Afrique de l'Ouest particulièrement, émane du Cameroun, à travers Afrique Média, qui a réveillé les consciences, permettez-moi de le dire, qui a réveillé les consciences de la jeunesse africaine, et qui, sans cette jeunesse aujourd'hui, consciente des enjeux, ne serait pas debout. ne serait pas prête aujourd'hui à sacrifier sa propre vie pour défendre les intérêts de la patrie. Moi, je pense que la Russie aujourd'hui, en sa qualité de défenseur, elle défend d'abord l'humanité. Moi, je ne pense pas qu'elle est prioritairement dans l'intérêt de se faire beaucoup d'argent. Mais si c'était dans le cas, la Russie est un grand pays qui regorge beaucoup de richesses en même temps. C'est vrai que ça ne suffit jamais, mais regardons d'abord ça sur le prisme de l'aide et de la libération.
Okay, I want us to take a listen to an interview that was granted, just an excerpt of an interview that was granted recently by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso.
About the sovereign choices of Burkina Faso. What is your response to this situation, especially addressing Washington, who continues to question the overall legitimacy involved here? Legitimacy of your current partnerships, particularly with Russia, and how do you intend to defend the image of Burkina Faso on the international stage in the face of such discourse?
In any case, we are free to establish relationships with whom we want. That's independence. So on this aspect, they can continue to think what they want. We will go where we want. That's provided that this partnership can be mutually beneficial for each of the parties. As for these remarks, as you previously stated, we officially lodged our formal protest through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that represents one aspect. But currently, I don't have any information about the specific events that transpired involving that particular general. There remains an unresolved problem in our current circumstances. Therefore, I might consider that it would be preferable for her to execute her most effective move in this situation. If we should decide to send him, please ensure that he fully understands it is not the right mission. If we deceived him, let them say so publicly, or if we ask the Senate that he made a mistake. Or do you also mean if it possibly has a bad intention? We will confront him as necessary because everything he said requires our response. It's lies. It's very ugly to see an adult lying, to see an adult general officer from a great army lying. It's very serious. First, he discussed the valuable gold from Burkina Faso, explaining how it is utilized in various applications that serve as essential tools and resources for our personal and collective protection strategies. First, it's Burkina's gold. It's not his gold. That's the first thing. What does it have to do with him? I have nothing to do with it. It's Burkina. It's Burkina's gold. I have nothing to do with it. The second thing he told me during our comprehensive discussion is that Burkina Faso had never possessed a gold reserve until our team's arrival in the country. It's us who started to reserve their gold, the treasury of Burkina Faso. There wasn't a single gram of reserve in Burkina. That indicates that he is still a liar. Another thing to consider is that when he states we use it to protect ourselves and everything else, emphasizing our freedom, it implies that if the people have chosen to govern it, then our liberties are preserved accordingly. We have the duty to protect ourselves, so we're free. How does that concern him? And the specific aspect was the one that really hurt me the most significantly. It's not because he is a general or because he is an American or for any other reason. It's because he is black. It is extremely painful to witness situations where a black individual is utilized to engage in conflict against another black individual. Moreover, this issue did not originate recently. It must come to an end. It's very dangerous. Even Libya. Who destroyed Libya? They used a black person again. In movies, in the past, among Americans, black people always played the bad role. But we thought it was just in the movie. But why do brave black people continue to play the bad roles? I think that if he heard this interview, he needs to look at himself in a mirror. Be ashamed, come forward and say that a false report was made against me. I regret it. He must say it publicly. If it's a false report, we did it. Because it's possible. It's possible that we made a false report because you followed. When I take our neighbor, again, as I say among ourselves, the Ivorian Minister of Defense, who is traveling going to Turkey, to see the Turkish Minister of Defense on December 10th, you see how it hurts. When it's a black person acting like that, it hurts a lot. Did we make a false report? What kind of denial? If we sent him to create a problem in Burkina, as they are used to doing, well, we will thoroughly get ourselves fully ready and patiently wait for them, because it absolutely needs to come to a definite halt now. It is imperative that the black race not be used to fight black people. Every time is the same thing, and this is what we deplore. And it hurt us a lot to see that it was a black person. It's true that they can regret it through several channels that they try to tighten. But no, it has been said publicly, and we must make our amends publicly as well. there, that is precisely how we are now. We are no longer engaging in diplomatic hypocrisy. As we like to say, we make very strong statements on significant topics. Afterwards, we must follow by saying no, sincerely apologizing and acknowledging that we have nothing further to offer. This response must be made publicly. So I wholeheartedly invite them to make sincere amends and to publicly acknowledge their actions, because African youth have clearly understood and black youth around the world have equally comprehended the significance of this matter. This manipulation will no longer work. It has always been the case. Using false alibis to hope to achieve other objectives, it no longer works. So it's regrettable, but Burkina remains in its lineage. We will continue to develop. He forgot to mention everything we are doing for Burkina. What we are doing, no regime has achieved it. There, the socio-economic development of Burkina. We are constructing numerous health centers, each fully equipped with advanced medical equipment and comprehensive examinations, and lowering the costs of medical examinations. Which regime has done the same? No one. We are actively working on agriculture, plowing farmers' fields for free. Our production has increased. Who did this? Nobody. The army has shown us in degrees. A new army, the Buddhist army, has never been so well equipped in personnel and equipped in terms of equipment as now. Who did it? No government in matters of employment. No government has created as many jobs as we have through industrialization. Maybe that's what bothers him, that he wants to stop it. We have to invent lies.
Thank you very, very much, Eli, for that. Except Dr. Apostle Ambi Valentine Ngwa, he raises lots and lots of issues within the 5 minutes he spoke there. He says that Burkina Faso is free to engage in partnership with whosoever they deem necessary, and that ends by saying that that is independence.
Yes, that is independence, actually. Because the challenge is that we have had, let me say so, some kind of shadow independence in Africa. The independence in Africa, most of the African countries, they are not tangible, they are not feasible. You can't feel the independence because most of the African countries don't have rights over their resources. They don't have rights on the international stage. There are so many things that decisions are made for them. And that's the more reason why they don't even have the choice in choosing their own leaders. That's one of the things you understand, that people are independent. They choose their own leaders. But unfortunately, it's not the case. Elections are rigged in Africa. Coup d'etats are conducted to force leaders on people who are not even competent to manage responsibility. And if at all a country is being told who to partner with and who not to partner with, it's like a child is under the mother's roof whom the parents decide on who to relate and who not to relate with. If at all a country is independent, they should not force the country not to relate with certain persons. So if it says that Burkina Faso has the right to relate or to be in partnership with whosoever they wish, that is true independence. And because we know in Africa, countries do not have that opportunity to relate or interact the way they want. You and I know of the 1958 Colonial Pact that controls most African resources. They tell you which of the resources you have to give out. They tell you who you have to give contracts to. They tell you who you have to relate with. They tell you that the things they are not interested in are the things that you can control. They're the things you can do freely. But as far as things are concerned, they have the right. There are companies that are established in your country. They don't pay taxes, while your home-based companies pay taxes. Your money is printed by them. Your money is kept in their treasury. When you put all this together, you will finally come to realize that the independence we have in most of the African countries is just puppets who have been placed there by their puppeteers. And the puppeteers are the ones that call the shots and decide. That's the reason why, if you look at the recent coup d'etats in Africa, the coup d'etats are a bit different, because this time around, it is the people who are backing up the person that conducted the coup d'etat. Is it not strange to see that somebody conducted a coup d'etat like Blaise Compaoré and killed Thomas Sankara, and he's been rejected till day? He's finding solace in Côte d'Ivoire, and he's been sentenced or given judgment in absentia in Burkina Faso. Meanwhile, he cannot come back to his country again. This is a case where somebody conducted a coup d'etat, the people are in support of him. Do a contrast between these two coup d'etats, the Blaise Compaoré coup d'etat and the Ibrahim Traoré coup d'etat. You will discover that one was rejected by the people and one is embraced by the people. The same thing is in the case of Mali. Mali had a coup d'etat. Assimi Goïta conquered Boubacar Keïta and brought in the former Minister of Defense called Bando. Bando was the one that was brought in as president. When they saw him drifting towards the French again, Assimi Goïta conducted a second coup d'etat, kicked him out. This time around, the people are in support of Assimi Goïta. I told you of the major imam, because Mali is 98% or 90% Muslim, 3% traditional, 5% Christian. The major imam that speaks in Bamako, Mahmoud Diko, and is respected, is the person that voiced out and said, you young military officers in Africa, you are fighting for Egypt people and defending colonial masters. For how long will you rise up and take your place? Assimi Goïta rose up and then took up that responsibility till date. Boubacar Chiani was definitely another person that rose up again in Niger. Niger has had several coups d'etats. In 1999, Ibrahim Traoré conducted a coup d'etat in Niger, and the whole nation was against him. Colonel Ibrahim and he was eliminated. This is a coup d'etat conducted by Chani, yet the masses are behind him because he has driven France out of the country and he's setting up new rules. So the coup d'etats, we have to do some comparison between the coup d'etats of the past and the coup d'etats today. Look, if this same coup d'etats in this trend go around the continent Africa, you will realize that the masses will defend the people. The reason why the former people who conducted coup d'etat and were in power were eliminated is because the people who conducted coup d'etat were not defended by the masses. Look at what happened recently. They have made almost 18 attempts to annihilate Ibrahim Traoré. The people are with him. For the very first time, people rose up about 1 million or 2 marching the streets of Burkina Faso to defend the interests of somebody whom the world convinced us that he came through coup d'etat. Are they trying to tell us now that coup d'etat in Africa is the better way out? Something we have condemned. I can recount so many coup d'etats conducted here in Africa. So many coup d'etats. If you go to Congo Brazzaville 1963, Marongwabe was kicked out through coup d'etat. You go to Rwanda 1994, Jovenel Habyarimana was eliminated through coup d'etat. The Niger alone has had about 6 to 7 coup d'etats. You go to coup d'etat in Chad, where Bukunu Wede was kicked out before Islam Abri came in. So if you want to do analysis on all this, you realize several coup d'etats have taken place in Africa. But for the very first time, we are seeing a group of people conducting coup d'etat being backed by the masses. If you see the case of Togo, where Iyadema Nasingwe kicked out Sylvanus Olympio, the masses were not with Iyadema Nasingwe. He used an iron fist to rule the nation. This time around, people are conducting coup d'etat in Burkina Faso and the masses are with them. Foreign Nasingwe has changed the constitution of Togo. Now he's no longer the president of the country. He is the director of the Ministers' Council, who is more powerful than the president. He stays in power for 6 years. That's life president. From the father to the son.
Okay. When listening there, he's raising another issue because he was addressing himself to the U.S. General Langley and regrets the fact that it is a black who is addressing another black brother. And he raised the issue of Gaddafi, who he says was also taken out through a black. I know he's making allusion to the U.S. president at the time, but he says we always have situations where blacks have to be manipulated to work against their fellow black brothers.
Yes, and this is very, very common, especially when it comes to coup d'etats in Africa, which are done for selfish, egoistic reasons. I would say that perhaps God has forgiven Barack Obama, because one of the things that he said he regrets in his presidency was the fact that Libya was invaded. And God him alone is a judge. And secondly, if you should have somebody quote another in talking about what he's talking, like what Traoré is saying, they'll know exactly who Gaddafi was to Africa. He will not quote Gaddafi for nothing. He knows exactly the worth which Gaddafi stood for. And you know that there is one thing that is very outstanding about Gaddafi, and people didn't understand, was his form of democracy. Libya had what we call a Jamahiriya, a democracy that none of African country, even the world, they have never noticed, and they didn't know how it worked. That was his own democracy. And you see, when Chiani came here, in one of his statements, he says democracy is not for us, and that he wants to fix his country and he's going to rule as a military. And he's very proud of talking about that. And you see, he hurts somebody. It hurts somebody because when he came, he had to put aside the former colonial master. It hurts. And he hurts somebody again, because when he came, he went for new partnership and got a new friend, who is Russia. He hurts somebody again, and he hurts very much Because when he came, he knew what the people wanted. The man has established two chemical producing industries, transforming tomatoes in Bobo and in Yako. He hates people, and he hates people because he is setting up a pharmaceutical industry in Burkina Faso, and he said we will not continue to depend on what comes from Europe as medicine. And he hates a lot of people, because when he came up, the country was ruled by about 40% terrorists, or part of the country was almost getting off, and he has brought back the country and he has pushed the terrorists aside. He hates so much because he has mobile medical vehicles that goes and distribute drugs and cures people around the quarters. He hates because people want to see Africans suffering with malaria, tuberculosis, and all of that. He hates a lot of people because they wanted to see him actually living a luxurious life and buying second jets, because they wanted new partnership for him to get abroad and get to the industry and spend money in Europe. He hates people because he is revolutionizing the security system in Burkina Faso. Education is not left out, and because the former Korean masters, day over day, and even the Langley who is talking, he hates them so much because now Burkina Faso is processing its gold reserve. It hurts a lot of people because they want to see Burkina Faso in misery, in suffering, with diseases all over the place, as they wished COVID-19 for us, that by the time they discover corpses will lying across Africa. It hurts them a lot because Burkina Faso are coming out in their numbers and they are defending their president, and it hurts. And a lot of people are going to commit suicide. This is where the problem is. And you see that this is what is outstanding about him. And that, like Mr. Musinga said, it is very important for your people to be with you than just talking about the world. Because, there are a lot of videos circulating about how people are supporting him. But what is much more important is that people are very angry that it is within the country that he has real support. And that to penetrate and get to him, you need to first of all kill the people. I saw young people going down the street and said, enough is enough. You will first kill us before you reach our president. This is the sign. This is a microcosm of presidency, of leadership that we want in Africa. And that is why it hurts a lot of people, because the man is talking with a lot of pride, and he's talking with a lot of confidence. The man is talking with a lot of assurance. He hates them. He is not begging. And that is why it hurts a lot of people. They do not want to see an African person is like a slave standing out in the house of the slave master and saying that now I'm standing like the boss. That is why it hurts them. And they are more afraid. Why? Because they know that other African nations are going to copy, because the wind of change, it is not just Burkina Faso. Now we are being contaminated because it is now what people are wishing for. And I said the other day, I said that when during the swearing-in ceremony of Olengi in Gabon, when he didn't come to Gabon, but he sent his representative, and once he was the president's 13 number were being introduced, and when the name of Ibrahim Traoré was called, the whole of the stadium rose up and there was commotion and noise for over 2 minutes. It took the moderator a lot of pain to calm down the people, just because that name was called. And now that name is symbolism. It's a symbol of what? It's a symbol of authority. It's a symbol of love. It's a symbol of Pan-Africanism. It's a symbol of negritude. It's a symbol of black consciousness. It's a symbol of feminism. It is a symbol of economic development. Because now we are not more talking about cultural identity. Now we are talking about economic identity. And this is what he's trying to bring out in Burkina Faso. And now people are angry, and he hates them so much. And I'm telling you, this is just a trigger. And before you open it, the whole of Africa will be in that arena, dancing and singing for the survival of Africa.
Yeah, we've been talking about Pan-Africanism. So many persons have been talking about Pan-Africanism. So many leaders actually have declared themselves key Pan-Africanists, and but this guy did not declare himself. People just saw in his actions a true Pan-Africanist. Is it to say that we have been waiting, or we have been living with persons who imposters? Yeah, because this guy did not say I am, and the world is cheering for him.
See, true Pan-Africanism is felt.
Yes.
It is not spoken.
It's not declared.
It is not declared. Because when you see the way the trains of I started by giving an introduction about the leaders and the initiators of Pan-Africanism, and I quoted W.E.B. Du Bois of the a black American. And he stated that in his famous seminal work, The Souls of Black Folk. If you read that, now you get the how Pan-African came about, and you see that the real people who actually worked for the salvation and for the independence of Africa, like Kwame Nkrumah, who was even the independence Pan-Africanist that we know. He did not declare himself as a Pan-Africanist, but Lucas quoted him, and he said clearly, the independence of Ghana is meaningless if it is not incorporated in the whole of Africa. And that is clear. That's a Pan-African, somebody who is over Pan, means for the whole of Africa. He didn't come to stand up and say, I'm your savior, I'm this. Through your works, and the Bible says it, through your work we shall know you. And I know that Pan-Africanism is known by the works of the individual, and those are the works of Traoré. When we are talking about Traoré here, we are not talking about Traoré where he comes from. We know he has a village, certainly. He has a family, certainly. He has, friends and all of those. But I've not heard anybody talk about Traoré's family, Traoré's village. I was here in some president in Africa, because immediately I call and somebody will know that this man is Bambafoot. This is what happened in most African countries. And this is the thing that you didn't hear about John Magufuli. John Magufuli was simply a Tanzanian. This is how true leaders are. But in most Africans, they call a president, they will ask you, from which tribe is that president? Because they rule through tribalism. But this is the man, when you call his name, people start enumerating what he has done. He said, this man has brought economic development, he's processing the gold in Burkina Faso, he's doing this and that. Okay. That is how it is felt.
Yeah, but in that interview, he says that it is true, you guys are exposing what I have not done, or the bad things about me. But he says that never in the history of Burkina Faso has the army had the equipment they have today. Never have they seen employment rates grown to where they are today. Never have they get industrialized to so many things which he has done. But why are we not also celebrating these things?
No, he began with the military. You know, his country was under the grip of his colonial master. So what they did was, there was a semblance of military equipment, which of course the substance was not there. And that is why the country suffered a lot from the hands of invaders. And some of these invaders were not necessarily people who came from the outside. These were invaders based on ideology. They had to invade the country with a different ideology and then create the insecurity, so that they can now use the force to give you the impression that they are the ones to defend you against your own. Now, you may want to ask why the people of Burkina Faso are not into the fighting as it used to be. Now, basically, people fight in most African countries because of poverty. They fight because of bad governance. And with the kind of governance he has, there are several Burkinabés who have been asking themselves, what is the reason for this fight? Why should I put up this fight against my country? Now, for how long am I going to be a mercenary to my own state? So these are some of the things. And the beauty is, he is so honest. He began by acknowledging the fact that there are things in his country that are yet to be in place. And this was a pointer to the fact that you have been for over 300 years as the United States of America, and you want a certain 2-year mandate to transform an entire country, which is not possible, you know. So I think this was wonderful. The major problem Ibrahim Traoré has as concerning the West is that they don't want you to pick up an ideology that will change you. It is difficult for you to accept an ideology than the act. You could easily accept a particular act, provided you know that it's not going to go across. Gaddafi was not killed because Gaddafi attacked the countries that they alleged that he was sponsoring terrorists. Gaddafi was killed because Gaddafi was about sending across an ideology within the African continent. And when it goes across, it becomes very difficult. And this is why the setbacks he had did not necessarily come from the people of Libya per se. It came from most of those in Africa who had supported the idea of the colonial master. So with the case of Ibrahim Traoré, what he is on presently is he wants to transform, first of all, his country. And you know, once you transform your country, you would have changed the mindset.
Pay your taxes and custom fees at Express Exchange. The solution is close to you. Enter an Express Exchange agency, head to the cash register with your tax notice, and make your payment of tax and custom fees with ease. Receive a confirmation receipt. So cool, Mula. Yes, Mula. From now on, I pay my taxes and custom fees at Express Exchange. It's simple. Express Exchange, partner of the Guild and the Directorate General of Taxation. Express Exchange, #1 in quality service in Cameroon.
But because he resonates a lot with a lot of young Africans, because most of these young Africans have always wanted to see a young man transforming the country. Like I said, the several military leaders who took over Africa countries did not do anything. And I want to say that it is not about whether he is a military or not. In as much as there was a word that was actually brought and given to us that someone needs to come into the office democratically, this is where he began receiving that black name. But I want to believe that if this young man had been elected and brought to power, definitely the US general who made the statements against him would not have made these statements. They are looking at him because they think that he was not democratically elected, and they claim that he is looting the goals, yet they were unable to point out where he has his reserve. They have not been able to trace from Russia, where he has a good partnership. They were not able to trace from his own village. Some of us, if we look at African countries, if you go to most of the leaders within African countries, you realize how their villages are small cities. You would have had tar road, very highly constructed, but there is no one in the village to live. But this is not the case with Ibrahim Traoré. He has identified a needful, and he is on the needful. So I think that for him to have admitted that there are things that he is yet to put in place, it is obvious that he does not want to present a false picture. And what is most important is, I have no choice than to call on every young African to think Ibrahim Traoré. Why? Ibrahim Traoré is a Pan-Africanist, and he is not saying it, he is acting it, because Pan-Africanism is not all about the words you profess, it's about the action you take towards an African and the African continent.
Okay, are we talking about a major shift in the way things are being done in Cameroon, in Africa? We talk about a revolution. Are we at the crossroad of defining what democracy Africa needs? That's redefining our democracy. Oui. Because when you look at, he says, okay, political parties, I am having a rethink. In Mali, the guy says, I don't want, yes. And in Niger, are we seeing a twist? Is Africa at a carrefour where they need to rethink what is best for them?
Ben justement, parce qu'il n'a jamais été question même de démocratie. La démocratie a été une valeur imposée aux Africains. Et les Africains avaient leur mode de fonctionnement, qui était leur mode d'élection. Alors maintenant, nous imposer la démocratie, et justement, cet outil a permis de détruire bon nombre de pays africains. Bon nombre de pays. Aujourd'hui, les piliers par excellence de l'unité africaine sont tombés et n'ont eu que la démocratie. Et à l'époque même, souvenez-vous, on vantait leur démocratie pour les distraire, pour nous amener à comprendre que, mais attention, la démocratie était une bonne chose, parce que dans les pays anglo-saxons, on pratiquait déjà la démocratie, où on nous disait que non, voilà comment le pays se développe, voilà comment, et nous les francophones, on nous l'a aussi imposé à un autre moment. On nous dit, bon, il faut prendre la démocratie, et la démocratie, c'est elle qui vous conduira au développement, et ainsi de suite, alors que ce sont des méthodes qui nous maintiennent encore plus dans l'esclavage, dans l'esclavagisme. Alors maintenant, oui, la démocratie, est-ce qu'elle sert à l'Afrique? Elle ne sert pas à l'Afrique. N'oublions d'ailleurs pas que Ibrahim Traoré, quand il arrive, le premier acte qu'il pose, c'est qu'il met le peuple à contribution dans le fonctionnement et dans le développement de son pays. Le premier acte qu'il pose, il faut acheter les armes. Il invite tous les Burkinabés à contribuer pour l'achat des armes, pour combattre le terrorisme. Et tout le peuple burkinabé a contribué, chacun à sa façon, même le moindre 100 francs, tu devais mettre dans la caisse, et ça a permis au Burkina Faso d'avoir les armes. d'avoir les armes pour combattre le terrorisme. Il a procédé de la même façon pour obtenir le développement dans le domaine agricole, où il a demandé qu'il fallait acheter les engrais, il fallait acheter les outils et tout ça là, parce que, paraît-il même, les engrais burkinabés sont les meilleurs même en Afrique d'aujourd'hui. Alors maintenant, il a mis le peuple à contribution, ce qui fait que au Burkina Faso, on ne peut même pas parler de démocratie, on ne parlera même pas de démocratie, parce que le peuple sait sur quel voie.
Africa win of democracy, and we all celebrate it. And today we say we don't need democracy. Is Africa taking 2 steps ahead and then celebrating 4 steps behind, or we are confused in this mix of things?
Non, moi je pense que en fait, on nous a servi la démocratie, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, Léo, parce qu'on savait que, ayant déjà exploité celui qui est actuellement là, le second, on a la marge de manœuvre pour dire, s'ils sont 3 candidats, pour leur dire, voilà notre choix, et on mise sur lui pour continuer à perpétrer l'esclavage, pour continuer à nous voler. On va dire, bon, ok, toi tu acceptes, voilà les conditions, est-ce que tu acceptes? Tu n'acceptes pas, non. Toi tu n'acceptes pas, non. Celui qui accepte, c'est celui qu'on met les moyens, et qu'on amène devant, et que le peuple va élire, parce qu'il aura les moyens suffisants que les bailleurs de fonds, que les esclavagistes d'État modernes vont mettre à sa disposition, et il gagnera les élections. Donc ce sera toujours pour nous maintenir dans l'esclavage. Alors moi je pense que la démocratie en Afrique n'a pas sa place.
Ça n'a pas sa place. Est-ce qu'il n'y a pas des pays démocratiques en Afrique qui avancent?
Quel pays démocratique en Afrique qui avance? Parce que quand tu regardes, je dis bien quand tu regardes, on nous a d'abord présenté la démocratie dans les pays anglo-saxons. On nous a dit, quand tu regardes le Nigeria est un pays démocratique. Mais regardez ce qu'il y a derrière cette démocratie du Nigeria. Regardez ce que le Nigeria avance, oui. On ne dit pas non, on ne va pas dire non. Mais regardez ce qu'il y a eu derrière cette démocratie. Tous ceux qui arrivent au pouvoir, comme celui qui est actuellement au pouvoir au Nigeria, à un moment donné, on nous a sorti ses États. Tout ce qu'il avait aux États-Unis, tout ce qu'il faisait. Alors, vous préférez donc qu'on nous présente un chef d'État comme celui-là par rapport à son background?
Non.
Par rapport à son background?
On ne dénigre pas un chef d'État.
Non, je ne suis pas en train de le dénigrer. Je suis en train de
comme celui-là, oui.
Non. Comme un monsieur comme celui-là, un monsieur comme le président de la République du Nigeria, dont on nous a présenté le background, qui n'était pas reluisant. Mais il est président de la République.
Oui, est-ce que le problème c'est la démocratie ou le coup d'État ou la personne qui est en charge? Parce que ce soit la démocratie ou coup d'État, si la personne n'aime vraiment pas son pays, rien ne va marcher.
Mais I just wanted to say one word before you come in. Democracy, as it came, democracy was supposed to be governed by a tool called constitution. Because normally, democracy is rule governed. And one of the things that we went against was...
Because Magufuli was democratically elected.
Exactly.
We saw what he did.
Exactly. And one of the things that most countries have done in Africa is that they have thrown away that constitution.
The constitution, yeah.
Yes, and now they are ruling. Like Barack Obama will come and mock at us Africans. Yeah. We do not want strong person, but strong institutions. He was not a fool to say that. He knows exactly what is governing Africa. There are strong men who are selfishly and who are dictators who are governing Africa at the detriment of the constitution. But this man has openly said, democracy is not our thing. We are coming back to the African way of life. And he has started doing it. He says, even your marriage certificate or your birth certificate or whatsoever, you can do your traditional marriage and it's valid. This is, somebody has to start something. Then we know where he's coming from.
Ok. Il faut chuter.
Non, j'étais justement, c'est la même chose. J'étais donc en train de dire que la démocratie, au fond, elle doit être purement africaine. Et la démocratie africaine, celle des temps de Kwame Nkrumah et autres, n'est pas celle que les Blancs nous ont donnée. Et nous devons rentrer dans nos fondamentaux de base, dans nos fondamentaux de la démocratie pour qu'elle soit vraiment effective et qu'elle soit purement africaine.
Les villages, nos villages où il y a, c'est nous-mêmes qui gérons, c'est bien là-bas. Dans les villages.
Mais justement parce
on a toujours des conflits.
Oui, mais justement parce que cette occidentalisation est même rentrée dans nos villages au point où nos villages, nos coutumes même sont en perdition.
Before the white man came with that in our villages, we never had that. What we had was migration conflict. But I think, not to digress, we never had that type of conflict.
La preuve en est que nos traditions sont en perdition aujourd'hui. On sait que beaucoup de chefs aujourd'hui sont des chefs achetés. Beaucoup de notables ont payé leur place. Alors, voilà, ce sont tous ces valeurs que nous perdons qui nous amènent également à comprendre que c'est le cas.
Yeah, but we're talking about Pan-Africanism, we're talking about the love and the valorization of what Africa stands for. Some persons say we are Pan-Africanists. They have said it for decades. But this guy comes and says this wig that lawyers and magistrates are wearing, that comes from England. No, we don't want it. And it is acted. And today it's finished. He says, okay, guys, we have to dress African. Is this not what Africa actually needs? Be it democratically elected, we want people who are very practical.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, you know, Pan-Africanism is an ideology. There is him that plants and there is him that harvests. There are people who have spread the message of Pan-Africanism. It doesn't make them less because they did not apply. They did not have the position or the opportunity to apply Pan-Africanism, but they were there to spread or peddle the information across the continent. I want to say Ibrahim's support today as a result of those who have been preaching Pan-Africanism. Ibrahim did not convince the minds of the people. Those who have been preaching Pan-Africanism are the ones who draw the attention of Africans to the subject of Pan-Africanism. So they have played their role, like those who planted. Ibrahim is harvesting the seeds planted by the Pan-Africanists who have been preaching Pan-Africanism for so many years. And we cannot downplay the role of these guys who were preaching Pan-Africanism before Ibrahim ever emerged. Because without this mind transformation, there wouldn't have been any possibility for the Burkinabés to rise up and defend Ibrahim Traoré. Remember, Ibrahim Traoré is just doing the same thing that Kankara did or attempted to do, but he did not have the backup of the people. Now, some people have taken their time for years, planted a seed, cultivated, the thing has grown and matured. There is the fruits that Ibrahim Traoré is harvesting right now. So we cannot just write off the people who have been preaching Pan-African as not being Pan-Africanists. Yes, they have been Pan-Africanists and they have been doing their job. And that practical demonstration of that Pan-Africanism also demands certain opportunities. There is an opportunity you're supposed to have to exercise a particular ideology. For instance, you may be a Pan-Africanist, but you don't have the office of a president to enact that thing in your nation by establishing laws. I can't sit in my bedroom as a pastor and choose to Pan-Africanize Cameroon, which I don't have the authority, I don't have the backup of the people, nor the military strength and the might to enact that kind of principle. So Ibrahim Traoré is a product of a privileged product of people who have invested knowledge in the hearts of the Burkinabés for years. I told you of Mahmoud Dicko, who took the entire West Africa by storm by speaking that, oh, you young military men, how much do they pay you when you trade the destiny of your brothers and sisters? You would take gun and shoot a fellow youth like you to defend an old man who has been in power for more than 30 to 40 years. Mahmoud Dicko preached that sermon and it went throughout the entire West Africa. That was when the revolution started. Are we going to say Mahmoud Dicko is not a Pan-Africanist? He is a Pan-Africanist, but he had just his voice and his microphone to make people understand what is Pan-Africanism. So I think Ibrahim Traoré is enjoying the privilege of the investment of some of us. I want to say so because we've been preaching Pan-Africanism to us for many years. Now, the application of this Pan-Africanism is within the context of where he finds himself. If he says that don't weigh weak anymore, that is what he's preaching to his people. Another person will come, will also contribute another quarter of the Pan-Africanism. Probably he may change the language from French because he's telling the people to change their week in French. And French is not Pan-Africanism. We need something like Fufude or
but in these countries, they all have adopted their local languages as their
but that's not what they are using now in school. They are still to adopt them. They have to enact it and then go to work before they start using them to teach in schools. It's still a Pan-African drive. What we are trying to say is we cannot downplay the role of those who have convinced the minds of people to believe that Africans also have their right and they have the privileges to enjoy as a continent. It also comes back to remind us that when a message is preached, it takes time for people to catch it. It is now that Africans are catching the message of Pan-Africanism. People have been preaching it. Ali Maziru, they have been preaching of Pan-Africanism. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, they have been preaching Pan-Africanism. Chinua Achebe, they wrote it in books. Even Ayukwe Ama, all those guys wrote books and they were used in schools in those days. And people went through all those books, read those books, and they became conscious. But when people came out in their number, because when you are reading a book of an author you don't know, it looks like a fiction. Right. But when you see the author on media speaking, like somebody told me in Yaoundé, I have been seeing your soft copy. Now I have seen the hard copy. I can better understand you. I can feel your emotion. So those who come on air and they are physically felt and people see them, their impact upon the lives of people is stronger than those who put it in books. So Pan-Africanism is a message that has been peddled for so many years by so many African writers, and it continues till date. And I think that the fire has caught the youth right now, because that is the population that is needed to catch this information. The youths are supposed to catch it, and they have caught it. And since they have caught it, one thing I want to let us understand on this panel tonight is that the people who were supposed to have caught this fire since many years ago were the youths. But since the youth of Africa had not caught this revelation, because if you want to talk about Pan-Africanism of old, you will talk about Julius Kambareke Nyerere, you will talk about Jomo Kenyatta, you will talk about Kwame Nkrumah, they will talk about NS1G in Cameroon. Now, how do you explain that Ignatius Achempong Kotoka, whose name is after the Ghanaian airport, is in 1964, when Nkrumah declared to become the everlasting president of Ghana, traveled to Vietnam and was told never to come back in that country? If the youths had caught the message of Pan-Africanism preached by Nkrumah by that time, I'm sure they would have chased Achempong Ignatius Kotoka out of Ghana. But look at what is happening right now. The youths have entered the streets to defend Ibrahim Traoré. If you go to Mali, the youths have caught the revelation. And you know, words are like seeds. When they are planted, it takes some time for those words to grow. Those guys lived and died without our existence. Nkrumah was ousted in 1966. And Nkrumah died of throat cancer. Even though America Cabral said Nkrumah died of the cancer of betrayal. The truth is, there is a generation that will conceive an information and begin to run with it. And I want to believe that generation is now. Look at, like I said, the young president that came up in Botswana, Duma Boko. The guy said he's going the Traoré way. Netumbo Ndaitwa Nandi of Namibia has just signed a deal recently with North Korea. That's the first African leader to ever initiate a deal with North Korea. The trends are turning. It's to let you understand that these are people who work in Namibia under the Southwest African Organization, SWAPO. Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa has been in the Namibian government for years, so they understand these things better. If you see them drifting towards North Korea, it's because they've understood that we have intellectuals. What is missing in this Africa is security. When you see them drifting towards these guys who can give them the security to enact the laws, because they have always used security to annihilate our people. It is the gun, the battle of the gun. And unfortunately for them this time around, the same people they used to eliminate people, this time around they have become very wise. You can't take them anymore and play the fool.
Okay, you can't take them and play the fool. Dr. Dimancho, he is taking a clear position. I says he does not want to live in a world where other nations must not dictate to others, but when he is saying that I'm going to work with these guys, Russia, that is what he has said. He's not hiding it. Yes. Are we not also, I don't know, playing or walking into the unknown? Because in the beginning, everything may seem very sweet, not knowing where the end, how it may end.
I just think that this is a very, very tactful person. Because we say that you have to liberate your people from the shackles of colonialism and all of those things. But you must know where you are standing to abruptly, suddenly, uproot yourself. Everything deals with tact. Even though I'm one of those people who have said, you cannot remove the chains from your legs and then put them on your neck. I've said it once. But I understand with him. I understand with people with him because looking at the politics that goes around the world, if you want to get support and credibility, you should get somebody who is feared by another.
That's right.
This is where I've seen politics even across the world.
That's right.
Yes, you should get a friend who is feared by the others.
La preuve en est que j'aimerais même dire quelque chose à votre suite. Parce que Kadhafi même a été tué pour cette raison-là. Parce qu'à un moment donné, il croyait qu'il était... Et il n'avait pas de support. Alors qu'il pouvait bien se retrouver ami vers la Russie.
Yeah, but we should also be very careful. Russia was in Syria when the guy, when Bashar was taken out. Just go on.
Exactly. Never mind.
Yeah, Russia was
yes,
there. But Bashar was taken out.
Well, see, there is what we call. There's what we call. I say there's what we call like diplomacy to Carrefour, where you think sometimes that somebody is saying outwardly that was with you and not with you, and that is we are worried now. I understand that glaringly or openly, Russia may think that, or Burkina Faso may think that Russia is with them. 100%. But know that in diplomacy there is supposed to be constant and friendship. There is supposed to be the defense of friendship. And there's no constant friend.
Mais moi, je
meaning that what?
Permettez-moi, docteur, de dire quelque chose. Mais moi, je voudrais dire quelque chose. Permettez-moi, Léo. Moi, je voudrais dire quelque chose. Si tu dis la Russie était en Syrie pendant que l'OTAN est arrivé.
C'est pas l'OTAN.
C'est-à-dire que pendant que Bachar tombe.
Oui.
Mais justement, j'aimerais te rappeler que quand Bachar tombe, quand Bachar on décide de faire tomber Bachar, l'OTAN décide de faire tomber Bachar.
C'est pas l'OTAN. Ce sont
les Occidentaux.
Ce sont les Syriens.
Bon, disons les Syriens. Disons les Syriens. C'est au moment où l'Ukraine, on était déjà en train d'armer l'Ukraine, donc Poutine ne pouvait pas suivre deux fronts au même moment.
But that is not even the hypothesis. That's not even it. That is not
Russia. This Russian military there was a heavy Russian presence in.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that may not even really be the defense I'm saying. But what I think is that in some of these things there is a lot of interest that goes into play, because I would think that the same interest that Russia has in Africa as a whole. Remember that it's not just about Burkina Faso. It is about trying to win the heart and souls of Africans. Knowing that Russia was not in the colonization deal.
Yes.
And that they are seeing this as an opportunity to submerge and have to write a new story.
That's our topic for tomorrow.
Okay. Thank God that I'm even that is right.
No, that's the topic for tomorrow.
That's right. And
are we experiencing a recolonization fight?
What I started my kicker by saying that for you to win a war and get partner, you should be able to get somebody that is feared by others. I think that this is what Burkina Faso is trying to play at. Do you think that at one moment Burkina Faso could just say, I'm no more with France, and then France will just sit and look at you? No, they needed an ally. I want to give an example. Most people or most politicians who have really won elections against tyrants president are ministers who have resigned from those party, from the politics, and then form their own parties. When you do that, what happened? People look at you as a very, very powerful person. Just to say that what? For you to be able to get off the shackle of another person who is feared, get to another person too who is powerful. And I think that this is the kind of game that Burkina Faso is playing. And two, at one moment, remember that when he came, he made some pacts that they signed. And one of the things that he did was, he did away with the pacts, and then the best way to stay off is to say that he doesn't have any links again or diplomatic links with France. And what is he going to do? Now he is going to win pact with Russia, which shows that what? It is no more an issue of master-servant or authority solidarity. It's a master of fair playing ground with somebody with whom you have agreed on a win-win, not somebody who write letters and before they appoint a minister of finance, he has to come and confirm somewhere else. I think that this is the game that they are trying to play, that they are trying to see the credibility, the worth, the independence of an African state, and then they are going into business, and those business are in terms, because the terms that they are signing that business now is more the terms of like the colonial terms pacts that they signed, and therefore now it is Traoré calling Putin to talk with him. It's no more Traoré talking to the Minister of External Relations in France as it used to be. It's no more. These are some of the realities that we must face. It is president talking.
It is Putin sending a special plane to
guard Traoré in the air.
Is that not also I don't know.
It is a sign of meeting somebody who is powerful and who's to be feared.
My card to pick my boy.
Yeah, no, but how? No, that is not that. But that is not.
No, please, calm down.
You're denigrating it.
Calm down. No. I'm looking at the topic. The topic is he asserting Africa's sovereignty or playing the puppet? Because those are two. I'm talking. The puppet.
The highest honor.
Yes, I think. Since you are looking at it, let's not go to that. Because you are coming to visit me and I send my card to give you a sign of honor. But what I'm saying is that. What I'm saying is that we are not just talking from the air, Mr. Liu. We have seen from the Russia African Summit, Russia this summit, and all of us have been reading the kind of partnership that they are signing. Partnership in this, in agriculture, partnership in electricity, partnership in this, and all of this. All of us are seeing. Okay. Did you ever see the partnership of the colonial pact that they signed and what did they entailed? It is now that some documents are leaked and they said those documents were classified. So I think that we should open. We are talking from data, from what we see and what we know, so that we can be able to judge him on that tomorrow.
But none of us have seen the partnerships that have been signed.
No, but at least we know.
We are following declarations. But now, can we also see in this move some, like you want to say, what the Frenchman would say to monter les enchères, so that you also tell the other guys that if you have to come and negotiate, know that I have a better offer this way.
Let me say this.
That is strategically positioning himself.
I don't think that is going to be the strategy.
No.
I think that when they decided to cut all relationship, I think that is not going to come back again.
The point, this is it, please. It's important. Could we still remember when the president of Cameroon went to Russia? He made a pronouncement that Cameroon would partner to whoever or with whoever Cameroon wants to partner with. I think it is.
He said many.
Several persons took it to mean that he too wants to boycott from France, but the issue here is, if you look at the Traoré spirit, if you go to the social media platforms of young Cameroonians, a good number of them do resonate with Ibrahim Traoré. That is, if you were to conduct a poll as to what kind of leadership would Cameroon have, you would have found that on their different platforms supporting that. But I think that Traoré was not protected in the air because someone, of course, I observed that the people of Qatar had to throw out an unusual thing when Trump was coming. That was their own sign of respect, as they said it. I'm talking about an ongoing visit. That is to tell you that people have respect for people as they put it to them. And in the case of Russia,
they have extra respect.
They have extra respect for the people of Burkina Faso because they now do resonate with what Russia had always wanted. We should not forget so soon that Russia took part in the decolonization of Africa, and Russia was not interested in the colonization of Africa. So we have to know that Russia for all these years has been struggling to have power balance. Now, please, it is important. Once you balance power, then you would have deterred your enemy. And for those who are forgetting so soon, there had been a pronouncement that was made by some French people, some people from France, that if France is not careful, she would become the third world country. And all of this is centered on France. We should not also forget that when the Russia-Ukraine war started, the pronouncement by Emmanuel Macron provoked the Russians, because at one point in time, he presented Putin to be the devil. And you know, when things like that happen, Russia understands where France has its grip. You cannot talk about France and the mineral resources that France is boasting of today in his country or in her country without talking about the African countries that are supporting France. So it is a subtle way to say the French people will have to go down on their knees by tackling African countries that have been under the grip of France but have not had what they have always wanted. A vivid example could be seen when Traoré told the president of Russia that I am not interested in coming and looking for scholarships. I also want that the technology that brings students to study in your country, that could be coming from my country and my continent, I want that technology in my country. Whereas, if you look at the relationship with France, we have to start moving towards China. Why? Because we observed that the Europeans did not come and give us their technology. So the president of Burkina Faso is rather asking for technology. Let us share the idea. Let us share the idea as partners. This is the basis on which he is looking at his own friendship, that we have to share the idea as partners. But I want to believe that if such had been proposed to France, it wouldn't have been possible. We got it when they had to stop the deals with France, and you see the outcome of it. So what is most important is that the president of Burkina Faso is interested in rebranding the African continent and changing the economy of the African continent, beginning with his country. And that is why he is calling on the others to why not queue in. So it is not a weakness. He is not a puppet. He is not being used for global balance of power. Rather, he has identified. He is a businessman who has identified who can pay more. And he is now heading towards that person who can pay more. The same thing goes. Yes. Good. Thank you. These are the traits. These are the character traits of a good leader. And it is the same thing when you look at the Russians. They have identified that the gas, despite the sanctions, the European needs it. Germany needs more than every other country in Europe. Despite the sanctions levied on Russia, Germany would tell the European Union that you cannot give it to this extent because it is obvious that it would have hampered my own economy. So it is a war where people focus on what you can give, and good leaders go for good deal. We don't want leaders who go for deals and place us as a country under the carpet when others are sitting on that gold chair.
Saying that they are just pronouncements.
All right. Yeah, let us also make the debate to somehow be balanced now. You guys, is it a church here today?
No.
Yes. So it is since there's nobody to balance. Let me also bring up some heated points now. Yes. How do we get African leadership to endorse what he is doing and then move towards the same direction? Because almost everybody agrees on this platform that he is on the right path. He knows the interests of the people. He's negotiating the best deals. He's no longer going the colonial way, and everything is. But how do we get other Africans to get into the fold? Because as we speak, in that interview, he talks about the need why they left ECOWAS to form IS with Niger and
Mali.
Yes, these are just three countries.
Yes.
Let's hope that it is going to change the things of the citizens of these three nations. But how do we get a broader picture of what they are setting as a foundation today?
Parce que quand tu l'écoutes même lors de son entretien avec Vladimir Poutine dernièrement, il n'a pas seulement parlé de ce
tu ne réponds pas à ma question, hein?
Oui.
Non, il dit que...
oui.
Que
comment peut-il faire pour agrandir la communauté qui n'est composée que de trois États? C'est la question que tu as posée. Mais voilà, j'étais donc en train de te répondre en te disant que, justement, lors de son entretien avec Vladimir Poutine, il a même été question d'électrification par le nucléaire au Burkina Faso. Et il a dit que la zone de l'Afrique de l'Ouest a besoin d'énergie, que si la Russie venait à s'investir dans l'électrification, ça permettrait à beaucoup de pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest de s'approvisionner, et ça va faire des entrées au niveau des structures russes qui viendront investir dans l'électrification. Voilà. Alors c'est pas seulement pour le Burkina Faso ou pour l'AES, ceci va également concerner pratiquement tous les pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc avec le temps, je ne pense pas que les valeurs qu'il défend, qu'il essaie de défendre, sont seulement les valeurs de l'AES. Il défend les valeurs de toute l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Et moi, je pense que, quoi qu'on dise, beaucoup de pays veulent entrer dans l'AES aujourd'hui, veulent s'intégrer. Mais seulement, il faut réfléchir. Il faut pas accepter n'importe qui parce qu'on a besoin d'accepter. Mais je sens que, et je sais, tel que j'ai suivi, les valeurs que défend le président Ibrahim Traoré sont les valeurs de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
Beaucoup de pays comme lesquels?
Est-ce que
le Cameroun veut entrer là-bas?
Non, mais je parle de l'Afrique de l'Ouest d'abord. Je parle d'abord de l'Afrique de l'Afrique de l'Ouest.
Le Togo veut y aller?
Mais qui te dit que le Togo ne veut pas y aller? Parce que quand tu vois le nouveau gouvernement, la nouvelle ossature du Togo aujourd'hui est en quoi? C'est-à-dire que c'est une façon de vouloir sortir des chaînes. Quand tu regardes l'ossature, oui, quand tu regardes l'ossature, maintenant, on veut mettre quelqu'un au perchoir là-bas, mais qui ne décide de rien, et maintenant, nous, on est en bas, et c'est nous qui pilotons, qui gérons les choses, et c'est pas à exclure. Réveillez-vous, parce que demain ou après-demain...
La Guinée qui a aussi eu coup d'État...
La Guinée-Conakry, on ne peut pas parler, mais tous ces pays seront obligés à un moment donné, parce que le niveau de développement que vont constituer les pays de l'AES là va automatiquement imposer l'entrée des autres pays. C'est-à-dire qu'à partir du moment où on aura le Mali qui est électrifié grandement, c'est-à-dire que tu perds même ton aiguille à minuit, tu peux ramasser dans la rue. Tous ces pays.
On ne rêve pas aussi beaucoup.
Non, pourquoi ne pas rêver? Il y a les outils. Il y a les comment on appelle l'uranium au Niger, qui peut permettre que l'uranium qui a enrichi la France et qui a permis à la France d'arriver à ramasser les guillemets même à 2 heures du matin, quand ça tombe en route. C'est cet uranium du Niger qui a permis à la France, qui revendait même, d'être électrifié comme ça. On appelle France, Paris, la ville lumière. C'est grâce à l'uranium du Niger. Alors maintenant, pourquoi ne pas se dire pourquoi ne pas investir dans l'électrification de l'AES à travers l'uranium du Niger, qui n'est plus exporté aujourd'hui par Arena, qui est seulement là, et dont on peut se servir également à électrifier pratiquement toute la zone de l'AES, et maintenant, et continuer même à vendre, et qui sera toujours rentable. Donc, je pense pas qu'on a les atouts, on a tous les éléments qui nous amènent à nous réjouir, à vivre aisément, à nous sentir bien chez nous, à ne plus avoir besoin de sortir. Donc, moi, je pense que c'est pas un rêve, ce n'est que normal. Beaucoup de pays vont rejoindre l'AES compte tenu du niveau de développement que constitueront ces pays-là demain ou après-demain. Et puisque le peuple est avec, les pays automatiquement suivront. Parce que n'oublions pas, à un moment donné, on a fait tête à Talon du Bénin. Le peuple s'est levé, le peuple n'était pas d'accord, mais comme les politiciens savent et que les Occidentaux sont toujours derrière, on a pu anéantir et maîtriser le peuple aujourd'hui, mais ne soyons pas surpris que demain après-demain, même les Béninois se réveillent et disent qu'ils vont rallier l'AES. Donc moi, je ne serais pas surpris.
Ok. Dr. Apostle Ambi Valentine-Ngwa, are we not too in haste to conclude that very soon these nations are going to be the best governed, most developed, and almost everything? That's the leading nations in Africa. Is it not too soon to start thinking?
Yes, initially my initial presentation, I said that it is too quick for us to start making conclusions because power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The way these guys are going, they are entering in the position of absolute power. The fact that they are driving away democracy completely by banning the existence of political parties is a threat to some certain qualities that we know in good governance. At least people must have a say in any society that has to grow effectively. But when you silence people completely, it becomes very, very complicated. So I believe with what Traoré is doing so far, let's observe. But to me, we cannot make conclusions now if everything is going to be smooth in the nearby future. Because in the course of developing the country, there are persons also who offend. And in the course of offending those people, a lot of things will come up. That is when his leadership capacity and his leadership strength will be demonstrated. I think he has not faced crisis with the people who are supporting him. If he faces crisis with those who are supporting him, that's when we'll discover his leadership acumen. As a matter of fact, it's a one-way fight right now. He's fighting terrorists who are trying to fight him, and the poor are with him. Now, when he will start acting somehow against the same people who are defending him, that's how we'll look at his competence. Look at what happened to William Samuel Ruto of Kenya. When he came to power, the youths assembled behind him, celebrated him, and then he rose to the highest office in the country, and then suddenly he came and increased the tax. The same youths that voted him, the Gen Z, entered into the streets, and a few of them were killed. That was where you saw the mastery of Ruto's leadership. Ruto got to a point where he said, you are the ones that will decide if I have to stay here or not. He did everything possible to quell down the tension, and he traded his right as a president and succumbed to most of the demands that the Gen Z brought up in order to put himself under control. An acute dictator in Africa, under an atmosphere like that, will shed more blood and use an iron fist through the military to crack down the youths who have risen to declare their rights. So I think sometimes your leadership acumen cannot actually be proven until you are given the opportunity to be criticized by the same people who have hailed you to power, the ones who have celebrated you, the same people who have sung your Hosanna. Now they are the ones singing, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him.
Give us Barabbas.
Because the same people, yes, the same people who said to Jesus, Hosanna in the highest, and were throwing palm front entering Jerusalem, were the ones who also stood and said, crucify him. How do you manage? Jesus said, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Definitely you are able to quell down the tension from the people whom you trusted and who trusted you in the past. So we cannot conclude about Traoré's leadership until the same people who have been singing his praises start fighting against him, that we will see his skill and his technocratic nature in leadership.
Okay, we not also, that is, what he's saying is, let's give 10 or 5-10 years to now, because we see the lots of equipment being brought into Burkina Faso for the tiring of roads, the establishment of industries and like. It's like in Cameroon. The president created Bank Agricole for this, and then that the issue now is managing. All of this may just be brought, and the manpower, the personnel, and maybe the policies to monitor for good implementation may not follow, and before we know it, the people get disgruntled.
Yeah, one thing I know for sure, is that Traoré is a human being, and at one moment he would depreciate. Even naturally, or get tired about certain things.
Every graph must fall.
It must fall. But for what is now, I see him, that energetic young man who has the zeal, the zest to follow up projects. It is not like ours. I beg, don't quote Cameroon, because I'll come back to the ring road. It's not, no, please.
I'm going to be happy when you ask me the same question.
Okay, everybody.
No, I don't want to come to Cameroon.
Everybody should answer. Go on.
So the issue is, I usually say that sometimes it is very easy to win the Nobel Peace Prize, but it's very difficult to defend it. And it's very easy, yes.
We saw that with Abiy Ahmed.
Exactly.
We saw that with Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. We even saw that with Barack Obama.
So
that is one thing about glory. Glory, that sometimes there is that propensity to sleep in it.
Yeah.
And we, as the whole world is racing it, sometimes you may just get off and just go and sleep and feel how you are really very loved and praised. That's why I say that is nature. And sometimes, but from what we are studying now, this is a young man that goes to the field. I have not seen that with many African presidents, that this is somebody who lives and goes into the field to supervise work. He goes into the quarter, plays football with the youth. That's a man who bypasses the elite class and goes down to the lower people. And they discuss. I mean, we have seen that happen. And that if today he brings in a lot of equipment and tomorrow they rust in the bushes as the tractors are rusting, and then we will begin to say that, okay, we are going to put you on the scanner or put you on the balance and strike. That certainly something went wrong. And that there was some kind of glissement of things that happened. And that we will begin to say, exactly. But for now, what we are doing, the appreciation we are doing is for something that we can call the jamais vu in Africa. This is the appreciation we are making now. We are not, I can only be the one on this table because I'm the eye of the God to see what can happen tomorrow. If not, we go and say that we don't know tomorrow. And that tomorrow things may change for him. The energy he has, and one thing is very important here that we should note is that there is an African proverb which says that if you want to go alone, you want to go far, go in a group, and you want to go fast, go alone. What we see with him is somebody who wants to go far because he's now in a group. They are like with the IS and all, and other people are developing the interest to join him. Meaning that what? at the moment he's going to be depreciated or going to be wearing off, other people will support him and other people will come in. This is an important thing about going in a group. The important about synergy. That when you are in a synergy, it is very, very difficult to let down. Because as they are going, they will be comparing the development that they have, because it's a win-win kind of a thing amongst them. They'll be comparing the development that is being carried out in their respective countries.
Fidelis Ching is watching us from Yaoundé. Boche is watching from Bamenda. Sang Enoch Kimbi is watching from Bonaberi. Contraf is from Abakwa, that's Bamenda. Da Villa is watching us from Betua. Rashadu Fomunyo is watching from Biami. Baba Umaru is watching from Garwa. Mohamed Figo from Yaoundé. Momo Frank from Boya. Fru Rinaritz watching from Bamenda. Njola Brenda is watching from Kumbu. Gilbert Njoya from Kribi. Mercy Chi Epus Nges is watching from Bamenda. Kili George is watching us from East. Suntobo Honorine is watching from Boya, great support. Abime Ngo Derek 2 is watching from Douala. Wanwirba Ambrose is watching us from Kumbu. Tudong Vera Ngodong is watching us from Wum. Kanyimi Kum Simon is watching from Kribi. Breneda Kier is watching from Chang. Elvis Che is watching us from Wei. Ndong Peter is watching from New Layout Nkwen. Ferrari Sancho Kesh is watching us from Bamba Langdop. Juven Wonse is Pudze Elvis is watching us from Van. The biggest Fleur Boy is watching from Com. Nas Cyprian is watching from Womb. Okay. Is this also a demystification of the capacity of a young person? Because this guy is really, really young, but he's making Africa talk. He's making the whole world talk about him.
I said it here last week or so, that the young people in Cameroon are not lazy. They are faced with the difficulties put in place by the government, the gerontocrats. So it has made them very lazy, as you see, but they are not lazy. Now, this is exactly what youth in Africa are. Once they come across the opportunity, they make proper use of it. If you give them in a negative way, they'll make proper use in a negative way. If you give it in a positive way, they'll make proper use in a positive way. We have seen this, and that is what is happening. The agility of this young man is not coming as a result of the fact that he is a military. It is coming from his mind. And he has made up his mind because he has read from the others. He knows exactly what his continent has gone through. And he definitely studied the development of Europe and understood that the Stalins and the other were young people. So he knows exactly that only a young and an iron fist person can transform a country. And his iron fist is not different from when we got to the period of industrial revolution. You go to France, you go to Germany, you go to Italy, you go to every one of these European countries, including the United States. This was the age, and the people were relatively autocrats. The democracy that we try to put forth, which is that which we are all talking about. We have democracy of the minor and the democracy of the measure. You have the democracy of multiple and you have the democracy of few. It has been democratically expressed by the people of Burkina Faso based on the large number that turn out, that we prefer him. So in this case, I don't think that he is not preferred based on that premise of democracy. Yes. So they prefer him to manage it, and good. Great. you get it. So that is what they want. So I think it is most important. And to put it the way it is, we observe that the young president also of Botswana do resonate with. We got the president of Chad, who now is also saying that the French military in my country, that base needs to move out. It is the same thing with Senegal. So you realize that the ideology of Traoré is being fought. And to talk about whether he will mismanage this with time, I don't see this possible, because that ideology is moving on. If you put a young man today in Cameroon as a president, I have no doubt that despite the colonial pact, that young man is going to walk away. He is looking for the opportunity to walk away from that colonial pact. So it is obvious that if you put a young person, he would have done the same. So to me, we should not focus on whether Traoré is going to fall short within what time. We have seen it. When the president of Rwanda came up, a lot of people said it is all about one man. And we are seeing how companies are moving to Rwanda. We are seeing what Rwanda is doing. So it is not the issue of one man, in as much as we always talk about a particular person who is doing it. We want an institution to do it, which is good. But if you observed well, you will realize that that person is also sending into others a mindset that is going and that is pushing through. So what is most important is that we should focus on building the mindset of the people. The mindset of the people.
Okay, yes, you wanted to answer to what I asked him.
Oui, moi j'aimerais dire, je ne suis pas sûr. Moi, je vais vous dire une chose. Il existe des facteurs que nous avons tendance à oublier ici, qui tuent un peu nos valeurs africaines. Nous avons cette histoire de démocratie, comme nous avons appelé aujourd'hui. Nous avons également les droits de l'homme. Nous avons cette histoire de droits de l'homme qui nous ont également, qui plombent également notre développement en Afrique. Tenez par exemple, j'ai pas peur. Pour moi, Ibrahim Traoré ira de l'avant. Parce que le troisième facteur que j'aimerais citer, que je voudrais citer, ce sont les sectes. Les sectes chez nous, en Afrique. Quand un pays a déjà écarté la démocratie, quand un pays a déjà écarté la démocratie, ça veut dire que les droits de l'homme même ne doivent plus exister. Et quand un pays a décidé de mettre de côté les costumes et tout ça là, ça veut dire que même les sectes n'entreront plus. D'aborder la tradition et tout ça, ça veut dire que même les sectes n'entreront plus. Et à partir de ce moment, si le pays est unanime, que voilà les piliers à exclure, voilà les trois piliers qu'il faut exclure, je pense que cette doctrine-là ira de génération en génération. Et moi, je n'ai pas peur de la chute d'Ibrahim Traoré. C'est-à-dire que le peuple a déjà adopté ces valeurs-là et ces valeurs-là continueront. Vous avez cité par exemple le cas du Cameroun. C'est impossible. Nous avons la démocratie qui perturbe même le vivre ensemble, qui n'existe plus dans notre pays. Nous avons quoi? Les droits de l'homme qui ne nous permettent plus d'entrer aujourd'hui. Alors que le véritable problème ici, quand on écarte la démocratie, on écarte les droits de l'homme. Je vous dis que si on prend 5 Camerounais, les voleurs de la République là, les prévaricateurs de la fortune publique, on les prend 5, on fusille ici. Le vol va finir dans ce pays. Le vol va finir. Et on ne peut pas y arriver parce qu'on a les droits de l'homme. On a déjà signé ces accords. Troisième valeur, c'est qu'on a les sectes. Nous sommes encore commandés par les sectes.
But that cannot be proven.
C'est pas prouvé?
No, it cannot be proven.
Non, je vous dis qu'on est commandé par les sectes. Vous ne pouvez pas dire qu'on ne peut pas prouver. Tout le monde sait que nos traditions,
let's focus on the topic here.
Nos traditions n'ont plus trop de valeur ici. Vous êtes sans ignorer que tous les jours on vous dit que il y a les promotions canapé, les promotions ceci, les promotions qui existent dans notre pays. Mais alors, nous devons d'abord, tel que le Burkina a fait aujourd'hui, nous devons d'abord écarter ces trois valeurs-là. Si nous les écartons, nous verrons que le Cameroun ira de l'avant. Mais nous ne pouvons pas. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, là, les droits de l'homme existent et nous tiennent.
Ça existe au Burkina Faso, ça dépend du leader.
Ça
existait là-bas.
That's what I'm saying. That
respect the right of the people.
I'm saying that whether democracy or a dictatorship or what, it depends on the person. Good evening, Mr. Kum. It's Princess Sophia watching from AD now. I like this topic of today. Good evening to you, Princess. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Zion Clinton watching from Kumba. Good evening to you, Zion. This one says, Dr. Dimancho has always been admired by me. His contributions are usually mind-burning. Kudos to all the panelists. Good evening to you. This one says, Mesh Waters, watching from Douala. Good evening. I'll just read a few. Hello, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you guys in the studio. From Butu Clifford, I'm watching from Abango in Bomenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm greeting to all the panelists. I'm Pastor James, watching from Mar 16 in Boya. I can't read all. At least I should read some, because you people start insulting that you write, and I don't read. Yes, you wanted to situate that what is most paramount is a visionary leader.
Yes, Mr. Leo, within the African context, you would describe Ibrahim Traoré as an epitome of dictatorship.
Okay.
Yes. If a dictator is getting the job done, it has to do with the person, not the system of leadership. You, in a typical African society, you will call Thomas Sankara Paul Kagame a dictator. A dictator who is getting the job done. At one point, I begin to get confused if it is a system of government in place or the leader in question, because there are dictators in democratically purported societies who are doing nothing. Yeah. They conduct elections every year, they rig their elections, and they call it democracy, and the dictator is not getting the job done. Another person is called a dictator in another society where they say there's no democracy, and the person is getting the job done. Is it actually the system of government or the person in place? Because we have been insulting other dictators in this continent, and if you can describe Ibrahim Traoré in the actual context, he is a dictator. Big one. He's a dictator. No, so are you telling me that it is socialism, communism, democracy that is practiced in Mali, in Burkina Faso?
Moi, j'ai toujours dit que c'est la dictature qui fait marcher l'Afrique. Hein?
Non,
c'est-à-dire que la démocratie ne va jamais apporter quelque chose.
Non, ce n'est pas la dictature. Ne fais pas ce genre de conclusion. Parce que c'est bizarre.
Non, c'est ma vision.
Nous sommes dans une dictature, mais ça ne sert à rien.
Qui est dans une dictature?
We are in a dictatorship.
Au Cameroun?
In Africa, in many places in Africa, many countries in Africa. Yet the job is not done. That's the truth. That's the truth. So, are you telling me that Ibrahim Traoré is a dictator? Museveni is also a dictator.
In Uganda?
In Uganda, is a dictator. You want to put Ibrahim Traoré's dictatorship and that of Museveni? Paul Kagame is a dictator. Denis Sassou Nguesso.
C'est vous qui l'utilisez.
Moi, je n'ai pas utilisé.
Moi, je n'ai pas utilisé. Personne n'a utilisé le mot dictateur ici. À partir du moment où on parle de démocratie, on parle de droits de l'homme, on parle de tout. Oui, si vous voulez, si à partir de ce moment vous qualifiez ceux qui ne pratiquent pas la démocratie, les droits de l'homme et tout ça comme des dictateurs, vous êtes libre de le faire. Mais pour moi, ils ne sont pas des dictateurs.
What Dr. Abe is saying is that it's simple. We have many African countries that have dictators, but they are not where Burkina Faso is within the short period.
Who are they?
That's what he's saying.
Ils sont pas les dictateurs, ils sont des démocrates.
Mais puisque nous avons la démocratie.
Which democracy?
Mais tous les pays sont des démocrates.
Oui,
beaucoup de pays africains sont des pays
démocrates. Tu veux dire que la démocratie est relative?
The problem we are talking about, the issue we are handling here.
Nous disons tous que il y a la démocratie occidentale.
The issue we are handling here. Ouais, Mr. Musima, laisse-moi parler, non?
Please excuse me.
The issue we are handling here has to do with the person in question. Everyone has condemned communism. Yes, Zimping is doing wonders with the so-called communism because it has to do with the person in question.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, we want to describe Ibrahim Traoré. Under what government is he running? Because parties are banned. In Mali, parties are banned. In there is no election. What are you calling that?
Americans are saying that there is no democracy because of Trump.
That's it. So how do you explain this situation that somebody who call a dictator?
Who called Trump a dictator?
Americans call Trump a dictator.
Congress people from the Democratic Party call Trump a dictator. So if at all we say this person, what is the actual description of a Democrat? What is the description of a communist and a socialist or a dictator? Because that's what the problem is. If somebody is a dictator that is getting the job done, it has to do with the person, not the office he occupies. Imagine tomorrow if I become president in this country and I ban all political parties and I make the country grow, what are you going to call me?
A dictator.
You call me a dictator, but I'm getting the job done. Then the people you call Democrats who constantly rig elections, manipulate figures, and twist.
There are adjectives that are attached to that issue of dictator. You see that it's a shift. some other people call them enlightened despots.
Enlightened despots. They are trying to
benevolent despots.
So the ship goes according to the law.
So they start preferring them.
Exactly.
So, like I said one time, that in our own country we don't actually know the form of state because it's a mixture of part communism, a mixture of socialism, and a part of democracy. So you want to finally end up, you will discover that it has a head of the neck of a giraffe, the tassel of a cow, the leg of an elephant, like a camel. So you don't actually know the shape of a camel because it's a combination of different animals.
And I want to, if I were to speak a bit on the because
we have to be sincere.
Yes.
If I ask a historian or a political scientist to describe me the system of government that Ibrahim Traoré is running under, who will give me a specific or a perfect description of that system of government?
They are not. They are can't.
So you now realize that all this system of government thing are all shadows placed before us to manipulate us, because the actual thing has to do with the leadership. It has to do with the leadership. I can say tomorrow I'm a communist and I change this country for good. Whether you are a communist, a traditionalist, a socialist, a democratic, a witch,
or a theocratic,
authoritarian and autocratic leader, once you are getting this job done, all that title of system of government will disappear.
Okay.
I want to tell us on the platform and Cameroonians watching and those who are watching across the board or across the globe that some of these name of government and system of government are all manipulation put in place to set up the wrong people, puppets and puppeteers. The only thing I will tell that if Ibrahim Traoré is the president of Burkina Faso and he's a dictator who is not a puppet. Because if you are in a democratic society where you are controlled by puppeteers, then it is certain that you are another burden to the people.
Okay. Hilary Ngwa says, good evening, Mr. Leo. Traoré is the African eye-opener for true leadership. We need such young leaders in Africa. Good evening to you, Hilary. This one says, please read it in loud voice, my message. I just want to be sure I'm not mistaken. Okay, good evening. You say you're writing from Canada. Good evening to you. Good evening to you all. I'm Samuel Akem watching from mile 19 in Tombel. Okay. Akame Kingsley watching from Banga. I love this program. Thank you very much. And I'll read 5 more so that we go. So many of you have written this evening. Good evening, Mr. Kum. I'm Ajon Johnson watching from mile 4 Limbe. I love the program of today. How I wish Cameroon can have an Ibrahim Traoré because he's doing great things in his country. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and your panelists. Europe was constructed through dictatorship. They should first of all allow us to do the same before looking into their scam democracy. Kevin Kenneth is watching us from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The program is interesting. Bravo to all the panelists in the studio. Ngong Edwin watching from Konya. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Akem Valentin watching from Bafusa. Bravo to Ibrahim Traoré. I like him. The guy is loved in Cameroon. Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Leo and everyone in the studio. I'm watching from Limbe. Dr. Wanja Charles. Good evening to you, Doctor. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and to all. I love your program. I'm Mirabel. We're watching from Limbe. Good evening to you, Mirabel. And this good evening, Mr. Leonard. Father Lucien Moa watching from Moyuka. I agree with those who maintain that Pan-Africanism is rather active than passive. I've learned recently that there is no democracy in Africa anymore. What we have is kakistocracy and kleptocracy. Kakistocracy is the government of the very worst, and kleptocracy is the government of thieves. Democracy in Africa as Prof. Lumumba has maintained, is that the West tells Africa what they should do, and again, having the multiple parties means democracy. All this is false, as has been evident in years past. Okay, we're out of time. We have to end here. Thank you for coming, Nji.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Ko. It's been a wonderful topic.
And also to you, Edmond Mosinga. Thank you for coming.
Merci beaucoup. On espère avoir apporté notre pierre à l'édifice, mais retenons tout simplement qu'il est important pour les Africains de continuer à se réveiller de par le monde, et que un Ibrahim Traoré peut également sortir d'un autre pays africain, pas automatiquement par les armes. Mais nous pouvons également avoir des Ibrahim Traoré, des gens conscients, des gens prêts à assurer l'avenir de leur peuple sans passer par les armes.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Traoré is the God of Africa. God love is writing from Kumba. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much for inviting me. And just to say that let Traoré not get Africans worried after him. I usually say that there is no successful person without a successor, and so that we shouldn't worry even when he is not there. Let him prepare someone. Let him not make the African traditional.
No, it's just started. It's just started.
Yeah, that is true, because there's a worry of him being the only person. He should already have somebody with whom to work. The guy cannot work alone. That is one thing. There should be synergy. He cannot be alone.
He's working with guys. Thank you for coming, Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Thank you, Cameroonians, and all the viewers. God bless you.
Okay, so many persons are asking whether the world is scrambling to recolonize Africa. Are we in that phase? Tomorrow we're going to be looking at it, because when you look at the interest China is developing for Africa, giving us loans, trying to seduce us. Russia is dead in Central African Republic, and we see what they are doing. They're even sending planes to come and get our head of states to escorted. Yes,
people even think that Africa is a land to be recolonized.
Burkina Faso
because our own leaders have proven not to serve our interests. So a lot of people are giving
even nations like Brazil, India, Turkey, they are now making inroads into Africa, knowing that the Europeans are still very present, as well as the Americans. So is Africa ready for another recolonization? Oh, they have awakened never to be colonized again. Tomorrow we are still going to treat this topic. Thank you to you, Desmond and Eli, for production, and to all of you for watching. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.